I think the burden one is one that kind of resonates with me because it is a heavy burden, right? When if I think about um, Grand Rapids just from the lens of the work that I do, we Grand Rapids was listed several years ago as the second best city to start a business. Best cities to start a family, uh, fastest one of the fastest growing cities, and all of these great things about Grand Rapids. But then when you look at the statistic more clearly, those bests aren't the same for people of color. It's actually one of the worst, second to last big city in the country for African Americans financially. So 51 out of 52, we only beat out Milwaukee. Like, and so the burden becomes being able to live or build successfully, whether that is business or career or whatever the case may be, while also carrying that burden of this uphill climb that you have to climb in order to build, um, while at the same time not being frustrated with the system. Because if you show frustration, then you get deemed as, you cannot be included in 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 whatever that might be. Whether it's looking for a job, Ms. Sharita, and that was my same experience. I had a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and I was looking for a job, and I didn't count, but I guarantee you, I probably had at least 72 denials with no interview, with a very good track record, some of the biggest banks on my resume. Um, Also being passed over multiple times in my career. Um, I was always good enough to train the next manager, but never good enough to get the branches that I wanted to manage. Um, and that's still a conversation that I need to have with my district manager at the time, because there was a blatant thing where I was requesting a branch because the way banking works, I was in banking for 10 years. um, you get promoted based on your sales. And so the idea is you want to move into a branch where you can have investments and loans and deposits, because then it makes you look better because you've got all those things. But as you can understand, if I've got a branch that sits over on 68th and Kalamazoo, chances are I'm going to get some investments and some loans and some big deposits versus if I'm at a branch on Bridge Street or in Elder Heights, right? It's going to be different, and so you want that. And I verbally said this to my manager. Or my district manager. I want to get to go to this branch because I know I can. That's where I need to go. I was leading the district in sales for a year straight, and so I became the. Anytime we hire somebody new, we'll send them to a Taj branch to train. And I was told, well, all I need you to do is do this first, and then you can get to that branch. All I need you to do is do this first, and then you get to the branch. And I did okay, here I did it. What's next? Now I need you to do this. And I did that and never got it. And then I was sent a gentleman to train. I wasn't told which branch he was going to, trained him, and then he was placed in the branch that I'd been requesting for the previous 2 years. As you can imagine, white guy, he's a great guy. I mean, I don't no disrespect to him or his qualifications. White guy who had never worked in a bank before, and here I am. You've known me for at least 2 years. I've been one of your best managers. So this is the reality. So to be able to experience that and not allow that to burden you to be bitter, because that bitterness will only infect any other kind of building that you want to do. So that is the burden. Being able to navigate that, understand that reality of applying to jobs tirelessly and not getting anything, being passed over for various things. I had dreads back in the day, and I cut them because I thought that was going to hinder my progress in the bank. I only grew them after I started my own business because I was like, I'm not going to be defined by how I wear my hair. So that is the reality. Being able to navigate all these hurdles, all these obstacles, while people will label you as lazy or as angry or as whatever, and still be able to do it with a smile on your face, and not develop bitterness in the process.
don't always feel like I'm appreciated, um, like I'm genuinely loved, um, and that my life matters. Um, I oftentimes do still feel like in order for me to really be accepted, that I have to assimilate, even assimilate my hair. So I made sure today that I wore it in its natural kinky state, which I love, right? But I used to wear my hair straight so that I could be accepted. Um, and so, and I talk with my hands. And so that's a threat, right? I walk around in the room, I laugh, but I realize like in this place, in this space that I'm in, that's considered or perceived as a threat. And so, you think, as you get older, like, is this all worth it? And so that's the burden, you know. Do I want to stay or remain in a place um, that I'm not fully appreciated or wanted or accepted? I'm
When
just
I
tired.
moved here, came from an all black city, East St. Louis, Illinois. And I didn't experience racism in the sense of blatant racism. And there was, I'm going to say this without sounding like I'm weird, but when I moved to Grand Rapids, it was the first time I saw mixed couples, you know, and I thought that was just strange, but that wasn't my history. And so years later, I went to work for an institution, and a lady looked at me and said, "This is going to be interesting. I've never worked with anyone black." Wow, that was like what? And then I realized I was hired because they needed to meet a quota, and you live with that in Grand Rapids. Sometimes wonder, am I a quota? Am I a face just to say we're not like other institutions? And even when you are given a position of authority, those who are at, you know, levels below still feel entitlement to tell you what to do. And if you don't do what they want you to do, they have an entitlement to speak against you to your peers. And then your peers are silent. And so living in Grand Rapids in 2020 is living with silence. And so I feel like the eyes see, the ears hear, but the mouth does not speak. They don't speak for me. I feel like I'm on an island by myself sometimes. And we want to be unified, but sometimes I wonder if segregation is the way. Because amongst my own people, I don't have to deal with some things. I'm valued for my skill set and my knowledge. And when you are with the other group of people, you often wonder because if someone can come and tell you, I did something, and you don't correct them for making an assumption or talking or speaking negatively against me, are you for me? We we walk around in Grand Rapids wondering the people who you engage with, Are they engaging with me because they have to? And then I have a husband, Black man, and I'm often asked, well, what does your husband do? And sometimes I just want to say, oh, he stands out on the corner and he sells drugs. Because that's a stereotype. But it's a hard place to live in.
You couldn't
And
have said.
I considered moving. My husband and I are going to be empty nesters. But I do feel hope, with this incident. It's the first time I've ever seen Grand Rapids really take a stance. And churches in Grand Rapids, Black and white, take a stance. But will it hold? Is it just for show? Will we continue the efforts? Will the Dutch people still stand with us? I don't know. And only time will tell. But my fear is that this is just for now and that we will move away from any efforts. We'll start something because it's the thing right now and it'll stop. So my prayer is that it doesn't and that we continue to say wrong is wrong and we need to fix it. And we avoid making excuses for it. And you have to speak. You have to have a voice. Silence is just no longer valuable to me. If you're going to be silenced, I don't know if I want to be in that kind of environment. And I'm not asking you to give up your rights to anything. And I think that's the misconception, that we want to take something away. It's not. I don't want to take anything away from anyone. But I want to be able to have a fair shot at having the same access to things you have. It's simple.